Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Nerd Soup. I am Aaron, the Nerd Soup Monkey, along here with Beau Oliver, here to discuss the latest HBO miniseries, Mare of Easttown. Mare.
They like saying her name a lot.
And this is a show I think gained a lot of popularity as it was going because, like with a lot of these mysteries and these detective-type shows, the intrigue just builds week to week, and obviously the mystery was there, but I think the show really excelled with its characters and kind of going deeper into these characters, especially with the Mare character and Kate Winslet. Absolutely fantastic. We haven't seen what else is coming out this year, but I mean, this episode, if you didn't think before, I think sealed the deal for her, Emmy.
Yeah, maybe, definitely. And it just sealed the deal for the show being a hit.
Yeah.
That it stuck the landing. Going into it, I was frustrated by episode 1. I thought to myself, this is the most HBO show ever. I feel like I've seen this show already. I know these characters. I know the setting, the way that it was shot.
Yeah.
But I think the show did a great job of breaking those tropes and also subverting some of the expectations for these characters. Like you said, the mystery was great, but what brings the show together is the community, the realism and the interactions between these characters, the relationships, the parallels.
Easttown it's basically its own character.
Right, definitely. And the central focus is Mare, so appropriate title, right? Mare of Easttown. The title really does matter here. And you're introduced to her. She's a character that's kind of being backed into a corner by so many different aspects of her life, her job, the cases that she's unable to solve, her life, her personal life kind of falling apart around her. And like the priest says in the final episode, it's about her kind of just trying to fight back into the circle by any means necessary. And at times, she makes choices that can be seen as criminal or as abusive. She's not a perfect character, and that's why it was so perfectly casted with Kate Winslet to bring this character to life.
I mean, I was drawn to this character right away. Once she put Cheese Whiz on Cheese Ball, I'm like, yeah, I get that.
And that was a suggestion by Kate Winslet. If you watch that, I don't know why I changed her name there at the end, but she was saying, hey, maybe, this character would like to eat more junk food in these moments.
And
so
drink
she brought out
and
the
eat.
Cheese Whiz. Yeah.
But the dive into her depression, too, obviously she has that tough exterior. And then as the episodes progress and we find out what happened to her son and all the trauma she's carrying with her day in and day out, I mean, the performance was fantastic. It was very subtle at times, but in the therapy sessions and when she finally lets it out, it really brings that character to life in a way that I think very few actors can, and Kate Winslet nailed it. Talking about another character, Julianne Nicholson as Laurie, that final scene, that final episode, the whole episode, but those scenes in the car and at her home were some of the more real scenes that I have seen, and that's what really made the show great in my opinion. And I mean, the whole final episode too, I think it was one of those things where everything happens so early on that you knew there was more.
Well, see, that's another thing where these HBO shows, they always do that. They wrap up the mystery early in the episode and the finale, and then the rest of the finale is tying up loose ends. It's like an epilogue.
Yes.
But no, the mystery goes even further. It's the fucking kid.
I figured that out.
I was like, whoa.
I'm not upset that I figured it out because I think it was fairly easy to telegraph once you realize that there were certain things weren't adding up and how it wrapped up so quickly. And the only person that John would cover for that would make sense would be his son. And but the way they explored it, I wasn't upset that I figured it out. It wasn't like, I don't think, oh, it's predictable or anything like that. I think how they went into that and how it all came together and the characters' reactions to this revelation was really the driving point that exceeded the mystery in my eyes.
Yeah, it's everything that's surrounding it. It's how these characters react. It's how they show sympathy towards characters who are put in these situations. Like I said, with such genuine and pure expressions of emotion, and with Mare being able to come to with Mare being able to understand what her friend Laurie is going through. In many ways, it's like she lost her son as well, like Mare, so she can relate to that. But
dude, that's tough.
Just to hold her, to comfort her in these moments. Not everything is going to be okay, but in this moment, at least, you know that there's someone there for you. And I think that even going to the last scene of the finale, for her to finally confront the trauma that she was holding so deep inside of her throughout this series, and for the past couple of years since her son died, it was a beautiful ending. That not everything is going to be fixed by this, but it's a step. It's a step in the right direction. And a lot of these characters, where they are left off, they have to continue taking those steps.
I mean,
it's still such a beautifully, in ways, tragic ending as well.
Yeah, very bittersweet, especially when you think of the Mare character and her development throughout the season. It's a good ending for her. She seems free. But for Lori, it's just beginning.
Right, yeah.
And that's kind of the tragedy of this show. And even getting to that point, once they booked John for killing Erin, and kind of just the tone of the show was a little bit more bright and optimistic feel around all these characters, especially Mare, and for that just to turn in an instant when she comes to the realization that it was Ryan who did it, and just all that coming back down, it was the way they play with that. I thought was very well done. But
Yeah.
for her to even come out on the other side and have the strength to go back to where her son killed herself, I thought really put a strong wrap on her story.
Yeah, I mean, you got to induct her into the HBO main character Hall of Fame after this run. She really is one of my favorite characters, not for just HBO shows, but in general. And also Detective Zabel, up until his untimely death, which was very shocking. That may have been the most shocking, not twist, but moment of the show. I thought he was going to come in and be the hotshot detective, try and take over this case, but they broke that trope entirely. He's just a good guy.
Yeah.
And like many other characters in this show, he's got his past demons that he deals with in his own way. And unfortunately, he does, he's a character who dies tragically. But I love the relationship between those two, the platonic kind of teetering into romantic at times, and also her relationship with the Guy Pearce character. Again, I thought this, it's a trope that we've seen before, the morally gray complex lead that's kind of brought down to earth by a new love interest. And I thought his character was great. I can't imagine the game that he picks up at PTA meetings. The dude is just a silver fox devil, right? Jeez.
Guy Pearce, man.
He's married to Melisandre, so what a life. But yeah, the loops of this show, like you said, when Mare's character kind of comes to the end of her arc, but for a character like Lori, it's just beginning. And you see that throughout with, Kevin having a child at a young age and Aaron McMiniman having a child at a young age. Just by chance, last night I watched You Only Live Once, Henry Fonda, old movie from the 30s. And there was a great line about how all men are born with the nobility of a king until the stain of life denies them of their birthright. And you saw that throughout this series, that even that life gets in the way for a character like Ryan, or a character like Dylan, but they show in the end, especially Dylan, that he wanted to do the right thing by DJ, by giving Lori the money. And Ryan he's a kid. He was a kid caught in this dysfunctional time in his family, and he makes a terrible mistake.
Right.
But you can understand it because he is a kid. He is a child caught up in all of this chaos.
Well, I like the kind of almost parallels between Dawn and Mare earlier in the season to Lori and Mare in this final episode, because it is that conflict between friends where it's kind of an impossible situation.
Yeah.
And with Dawn, Mare's doing everything she can. That loss of her daughter, not being able to find her, it's something that drives a wedge in their friendship. And even at the end, what is Mare, it really is an impossible decision, because you can easily justify that this is a good kid, maybe you can just let it go with John. John is still a scumbag, right? He was
the one committing. Yeah, no, he brought this upon
incest,
his family.
Statutory rape. He's still a bad guy, even though he didn't pull the trigger. And he indirectly caused this by driving the wedge into his family life. And Ryan, you could argue, maybe just be caught up in the moment and just reacted. Like you said, he's a kid, and you could see throughout the season that he isn't necessarily a bad kid.
No.
And
looking back, you could definitely see that secret with him. I was keeping an eye on this kid in every episode. What is he up to? What is the secret that he's holding?
He's doing
with his
homework
father?
on a Friday night.
Yeah,
Something's not right with this kid.
No one's that lame.
But
he definitely killed someone.
And especially with Mare going through the loss of her own son and now having to be the catalyst of doing that same thing to Lori, it's a really tough decision, and it breaks her. And you can understand Lori's reaction to basically what I just said. It's like you should just let John rot and let Ryan have a normal life. But
right. Yeah, no, a lot of complex decisions that they had to come to throughout the series. And like I said, splitting the mystery was also very clever to me. Having the two cases being separate, where you just have some guy that's out there kidnapping girls and keeping them as slaves, and then them infiltrating his bar/house Shades of Silence of the Lamb. That was tense, man.
Oh yeah,
That was real tense.
She knows what's happening, and Zobel like hesitates for that second, and
Yeah, no, they pieced him up.
very,
So you
very
get a lot of
Departed-esque just out of nowhere.
Right, yeah. Remind me of The Departed as well.
And even at the end when John's just like, just fucking kill me.
Yeah, no, that was a Mare coming down the rocks,
Yeah.
falling in the water, stumbling. So the character stuff was great, but the way that they unfolded the mystery was great as well, where you can just be engaged in normal detective stuff, where you're just on board for the ride here. So that was great. And like you said, the character of Dawn, when she comes to Mare's defense at the market, I forget, I think Brianna's father,
Yeah.
when he's intimidating her.
Talk about two terrible kids. They deserve each other.
Yeah, no, they're not great kids. They gotta figure it out. They should have been hanging out with Siobhan, but
Well, yeah, I mean, that family dynamic, too, was something that was very strong throughout. Gene Smart as Helen. The show is very funny at times.
Yeah, very funny.
When they find out about the affair and she just starts cracking up in the car.
I started laughing out loud. That was so funny.
Yeah.
It's like maybe 3 times. I can't even remember. It tells you how little it meant to me. She was great. She was funny throughout.
And Mare having Siobhan and Drew kind of, she's still dealing with the loss of her son, but kind of, she's still there for Siobhan. She still wants to be there for Drew. So she didn't let it completely destroy her own family life. Obviously, there are certain things that I think Siobhan even discusses with her that she has been absent, but she's trying her best to balance her trauma and also raising her grandson and her daughter.
Yeah, and her inability to confront that trauma leads her to make some of these really questionable and at times criminal choices. Planting the drugs on Carrie. I don't know how she didn't get fired, man. She really needs to send Chief an edible arrangement after this show, because that man had her back through and through. But you see that what happens when people don't confront that trauma, when they don't heal the right way, that they can make these choices where she thinks that she's doing the right thing. She wants to keep Drew in a stable home, but how can she even claim that it's a stable home if she's out there doing that? You see that at the end she does come to an understanding with Carrie, where she embraces her at the end, and she's also a character who's caught with her problems with addiction. She wants to do right by her son, but realizes that the best thing for him would be to allow him to stay with his grandmother and with the family that he's known since his birth. So like you said, a lot of the endings for these characters and for the series overall, it was very bittersweet, but I do really appreciate the theme of understanding, and that's the biggest thing that I took out of this, that it's not all black and white. There's so much gray. There's so much that goes into who people are at any given moment. You can't just judge them on their worst day. You have to know all of it.
Even with the priest character, it's like, I think he hits the nail at the head with that speech at the end about the community and, letting people back into the circle, even if they're resistant or if you're resistant. But like that character giving that speech, knowing what we know about him, and there's still so much up in the air. Like, if you take his word for it, fine, but there could still be some other, like, why is he here?
Right.
They
Definitely.
delved into that, and you don't know if he's telling the truth, and you don't know if he's actually not that good person. But yet he wraps up all the sentiments in the show in that last speech, and it's like perfectly, and it kind of just.
And then they brought him off to jail.
And it emphasizes the grayness of this story and this town.
Definitely. So many characters in this show. That's what I really appreciated, because like you said, Easttown is a character, and they managed to shine the light on this community. So they managed to shine the light just enough on all of these characters to bring this community to life. Whereas someone like me who came into it saying, so much of this is familiar, but by the end of it, I wanted to take a vacation to Easttown, I appreciated my hometown more. But I do definitely think Mare needs a week in the tropics, man. Just take a nice short trip to Mexico.
Well, yeah, I think even Siobhan says at the end.
Actually, the pandemic's about to start, I think, right?
Oh, yeah, it was in February.
It's February 2020. Yeah, no, you ain't going nowhere anytime soon, Mare. Sorry.
Oh, man.
Well, the dialect, what did you think about the dialect?
I don't know we know. All I know is what we don't know.
With a very specific accent.
Oh, no. I know her.
At first, I didn't realize that was Philadelphia dialect, so I thought Kate Winslet's accent was trying to escape. Like the opposite of the Eric Andre meme. Let me out!
Yeah.
But no, then I noticed everyone was kind of doing it. Angaria Rice, who played Siobhan, didn't know she was Australian until the very end. She's a rising star, man. She's really shown out in a lot of the movies and shows that she's appeared in. You know, being in Nice Guys, I thought she was the best part of that movie.
Yeah.
Playing the role as the news broadcaster in the Spider-Man movies, and I thought she really stood out here.
Yeah, definitely.
And she's a great singer.
Yeah.
Good voice.
Very good voice.
Should have went to NYU. Is that a music school? No, that's a film school. Should probably know that. But yeah, so many great red herrings. Like when they set up Frank, I thought for a moment, yo, did Frank bang this kid? Frank's not a good dude. Bought a house right behind them.
He's
It's all
done a great
coming together.
David Denham's did a great job of distancing himself from The Office because his character is like widely hated.
Okay.
I feel like now he's like the more sophisticated dad guy. It's like, he could be.
See, as someone who hasn't watched The Office, I don't know him from that. So
Yeah.
I thought he was the perfect sophisticated dad guy.
Yeah.
Like I'd want him to tutor my kid in chemistry, get his grades up. And like I said with Zabel, I really thought he was going to be wacky genius detective, which I would have loved because I love wacky genius detectives. But he turns out to just be a good guy.
Yeah.
That was so refreshing. That obviously it starts a little rocky because Mares feels like someone's moving in on her turf here with this case, and we've seen that time and time again when it comes to detective shows. But no, their relationship ends on a very good note where she feels responsible for his death, and she has that back and forth. She goes to his mother, and it goes to show that not everything is going to be tied up neatly with the bow. That's how life is.
When you really think about it, it's a web because like if they would have confessed in the beginning, Zabel lives. But they don't find don't find the two women that were missing because they don't dive deeper into the investigation and try to connect everything. That's just another cold case. And all these things happened that led to Zabel that saved these two other girls and at the same time brought families together and destroyed others.
Right. And that's life. That I think that pretty much sums up with this show, with the point that this show was trying to make, that not everything is black and white, that there's so much gray that goes into things, that something incredible can come out of something terrible, or vice versa. Mm-hmm. So that's why I would say that this is easily one of the best HBO shows that has come out over the last couple of years, driven by great performances and led by Kate Winslet with probably a career best. And it's great to see. I mean, she's especially with actresses at this point in their careers, they don't get roles like this. They don't get leading roles in movies or shows. So it's refreshing to see that as well. The last thing I remember her in was the Steve Jobs movie, mm-hmm. which she was incredible in. So more Kate Winslet, please.
Well, yeah, even a woman lead in a role like this. Typically, it's the male detective who everything's falling around apart, and he's depressed, and he's going through all these things, and him finding himself. And to kind of put a woman lead and show, like, this is universal around everybody. Like, people deal with shit all the time.
Didn't it feel so real?
It did. I think that was
We always see characters like this gruntled detective, like you said, their life is falling apart, but we don't get great reasons as to why they are like this. I thought the reasons for how Mare acted as a detective were just spot on, where I never thought that anything was contrived or made up, that it all just felt genuine. I
think the way they explored a lot of the traumas and depressions and anxieties within these characters, I thought was very well done, and that's always refreshing to see because sometimes it's overblown or too in your face.
Yes, they found a nice sweet spot.
Yeah,
it wasn't too melodramatic, but it also, like you said, it was still there. They didn't shy away from it.
And it's broken up with moments of levity too, which I think is a very real thing. It's like, certain things can make you happy and certain things you can come to enjoy, but a lot of those things are still carried with you, and maybe not in the forefront all the time, but they're always there.
Right. Well, the character when Helen at the end, when all the news is finally out there, when everyone knows the truth, and she's drunk off her ass and she falls down before Mare can get in there and just starts cracking up.
Yeah.
You think that this is going to be very an emotional moment between these two characters when they're talking about everything that just transpired, and she falls on her ass and Mare's like, how many Manhattans have you had? So that's a perfect moment, a perfect example of them using levity, and it just felt like real life. All of these interactions, the characters, the setting, the case, the mystery, all of it just felt real.
I think that's what True Detective did very well too. They used the mystery detective drama to really as a way to explore the characters further. It's mostly used to supplement the character development.
Right.
And dive deeper into them.
It reminded me of Twin Peaks, especially with all the double lives people were leading, the secrets that they would keep from each other. It felt like every episode we got a new secret that furthered the narrative. But also, bring back the opening themes for television shows. True Detective is a perfect example of that. That opening theme, I just want to listen to it right now. I'm already bopping to it in my head.
I always like to pop up, though, Mare of Easttown.
You don't want a nice True Detective opening, though, man?
No, what I do want is that guy to be, and now for the HBO limited series, Mare of Easttown.
I miss that guy. Well, you don't want like Eminem to do Mayor, Easttown.
No.
We in Easttown. Mayor, it's the Beast Town.
Should we end this?
Yeah, no, end that shit. End that shit real quick.
I think we can both agree this is a very good show. We're going to miss it. I always miss the weekly television, but yeah, thank you for watching. Leave your thoughts in the comments. What did you think of Mare of Easttown? And join us back for Mare of Easttown Season 2, where Mare goes to culinary school.
Oh, wow, that sounds terrible.
Yeah. Mare of Flavortown.
Oh, okay, now I'm on board.
Damn, I'm good sometimes.